President Biden plans to discuss high inflation in a meeting later today with Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell. The meeting comes at a time when prices are rising quickly on everything from gasoline and food to housing. This is the first time the two are meeting since Powell was confirmed to another four-year term as chairman of the central bank. The Fed has faced some criticism for being slow to address inflation, which President Biden has tapped as his top economic priority. Meanwhile, the president has outlined a three-part plan to tackle inflation in a new piece this morning for the Wall Street Journal. He writes, quote, "Americans are anxious. I know that feeling. I grew up in a family where it mattered when the price of gas or groceries rose. My plan has three parts. First, the Federal Reserve has a primary responsibility to control inflation. I have appointed highly qualified people from both parties to lead that institution. Second, we need to take every practical step to make things more affordable for families during this moment of economic uncertainty. The price at the pump is elevated in large part because Russian oil, gas, and refining capacity are off the market. We cannot let up on our global effort to punish Mr. Putin for what he's done. Third, we need to keep reducing the federal deficit, which will help to ease price pressures. I welcome debate on my plan to tackle inflation. I will work with anyone, Democrat, Republican, or independent, willing to have an open and honest discussion that delivers real solutions for the American people." Joining us now, Director of the White House National Economic Council, Brian Deese. Brian, good to have you with us this morning. I suspect you had a hand in the writing of this piece in the Wall Street Journal this morning, or at least inform the president a bit. Elaborate a little bit, if you would. What is President Biden going to say when he sits down with Chairman Powell today? And does the president believe that the Fed has acted too slowly on this problem?
Well, when the president sits down with Chair Powell, what he will reiterate is his commitment to giving the Fed the space and the independence it needs to do its job to tackle inflation. That may sound basic, but it has not always been the case. We've not had presidents in the past that have been clear about respecting the independence of the Federal Reserve. And so the president wants to do that clearly today and make clear that the Fed has the tools that it needs to address inflation while also sustaining our economic recovery. And I think that that's an important part of the president's message in the piece that he published today, which is that we are in this transition from what has been a historic economic recovery, historic in the jobs created, historic in the wealth created for American families. And now we need to transition to more stable and resilient growth, and that's what they'll be talking about.
Hey, Brian, good morning. Jonathan Lemire. So to pick up on your point that if the Federal Reserve is independent and if they're largely the ones in charge of this, what is the point of this meeting today beyond a photo op? And what measures are you guys, can the president actually take to combat what is a spiraling crisis?
Yeah, it's a great question. And look, it is standard practice for presidents and chairs of the Federal Reserve to meet from time to time so that the chair can share his views or her views on the economic outlook. That will happen today. And the reason to do it is to underscore that this president is committed to respecting the independence of that institution. But that's not the only issue. As you outlined, there are two other important parts of what the president is focused on. The first is bringing down costs for families. There's a variety of things that we can do and are doing on that front, lowering the cost of internet bills for American families, making it cheaper and easier to move goods from ships to trucks to railways so that people can get the things that they want cheaper. We're working on all of those pieces. And then there's important pieces that we need Congress's help on as well, like, for example, lowering the cost of prescription drugs. All of those things are our focus. Some of them we need Congress. Some of them we can do on our own. But they're all focused on one central idea, which is how can we make things more affordable for families during this transition period? And then, of course, as Willie mentioned, lowering the federal deficit. This is a place where we've really made notable progress, more than $1.5 trillion reduction in the deficit just this year alone. We want to keep making progress on that front, have a set of proposals in front of Congress to do that. There's broad support among the Democratic caucus for tackling tax reform, so we hope we can make progress on there as well.
Brian, Elise Jordan here. I would like to talk to you about tax reform because in the op-ed, President Biden mentions that he will be taking on common sense tax code reforms. Specifically, it is outrageous in the outrageous unfairness in the tax code that allows a billionaire to pay lower rates than a teacher or firefighter. So what specifically is going to be done so that a billionaire does not pay a lower rate than a teacher or firefighter?
Well, first, we could move on the president's proposal for what he's referred to as a billionaire minimum tax, which would mean that if you have more than $1 billion in wealth, then on an annual basis, it would make sure that you pay at least 20% of your overall income in taxes. That would put a billionaire in a position where they're paying about the same rate as a teacher or a firefighter, but would be a dramatic change from today, where the typical billionaire pays only 8% of his income. And we could do the same on the corporate tax side as well. We have proposed, and the House has passed, a 15% minimum tax on corporations so that they pay a minimum, and we make sure we don't have the situation where you have 50 companies that made $40 billion in profit last year and paid $0 in taxes. Those types of approaches, a billionaire minimum tax, a corporate minimum tax, are the kind of common sense approaches the president's talking about. And like I said, there's got a lot of support congressionally, and we're hopeful that we can move that forward over the course of the next several weeks.
Brian, just looking at the proposals and the op-ed, the 3 points, while laudable in many ways, are kind of long-term thinking. Ending the war in Russia, bringing down the deficit, and even Fed action would be delayed some time. For people who are paying $5.50 a gallon and making difficult decisions in their homes about what to do and what not to do, and truck drivers who are saying, at the price of diesel, it's not even worth it for me to take this haul out on the road. What do you say to people hurting in the short term with inflation?
Well, look, as the president said, and as we will continue to reiterate, we get it. We get that these prices are hitting right now and that people are looking for some relief, which is why we're using every tool we have to provide relief in the immediate term, even as we work on some of these incredibly important medium-term issues. So I just give you a concrete example. The president used his executive authority to lower the cost of internet bills for 50 million families. That doesn't solve every pocketbook problem that families have, but it does mean that people can get lower cost and in some cases free internet, take one of the monthly bills off of the table. There are other steps that we can take right in the immediate term to try to get goods moving more quickly. Anywhere where we can take immediate steps, we're going to do so. But I also wouldn't undervalue the medium term. You think about something like housing prices, rent prices in the United States. If we start building more supply of affordable housing today, we are going to have an impact on the market, and we're going to solve this problem earlier than we would otherwise. So we have to focus both in the immediate term and the medium term.
Yeah, for the moment, it's the grocery store and the gas station where everyone's feeling it. Director of the White House National Economic Council, Brian Deese. Brian, thanks for being with us this morning.